What's up, DBE fam? Welcome back to the show. We have an incredible guest with us today. A guest that I think his niche in itself can ruffle some feathers, but I also think people in our audience are going to be leaning into the microphone, listening with interest and intent, because it's definitely something that a lot of people are talking about these days. So today we've got the one and only Pheroze Karai, who's on a mission to help others trust their own judgment and reclaim their sense of belonging. I can talk all about the incredible things he does as a medium and an expert in plant medicine, how he's highly sought after for developing people and helping them align their trust and their relationships with their inner voice and self-expression. But honestly, I just am dying to get into this because the business that you have built is in an industry or a niche or a niche, whatever you want to say, I say niche, that is kind of taboo and can cause a lot of emotional response, opinions, hate, and I think misunderstanding. So Pheroze, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jess. I'm
Yeah.
so grateful to be here.
Yeah. Take us back for a second, because you were raised in India and the Middle East.
Yeah, I was raised in India in the Middle East.
When did you come
Uh,
here?
when I was 13, at the time where we lived, there was no education past the ninth grade.
Wow.
So I had to go to school somewhere else while my parents lived there. So I went to school in the US.
Wow.
I went to a boarding school and then stayed here ever since. And that was in 93. So,
Wild. And you ended up in New York as a professional musician.
hmm
Okay.
yep.
And obviously, if you watch the YouTube right now, you've got tons of guitars behind you. Yes, I love it. Do you still play?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's like one of my arms. I don't need it, but I would miss it if it's gone.
Do you play for pay or you just play for yourself?
Working on something that's play for pay, but I've always played
Yay.
myself. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
So so you're in music, you're doing that and corporate leadership stuff, right?
yeah.
And you worked for companies like Nintendo and Atari, which is so
hmm
crazy. I know my audience listening, like they likely remember Atari because I mean, I'll be 40 in April and I remember Atari and we were most of my audience, I think, is a little bit closer to my age. So I'm just curious if you remember Atari. You got to shoot me a DM and let me know. But what were you doing with Nintendo and Atari?
I ran digital strategy,
Okay.
kind of online content strategy, digital strategy, website production, kind of everything that kind of came on. And at that time, with so Atari was in the days of MySpace when that
Yeah.
was the number one social media network.
Hi,
Facebook had just
Tom.
colleges. Yeah, you know, we hung out with Tom. Um, and
My only
then
friend.
yeah, and then Nintendo was just in the several years after that, about
Okay.
5 years after. So kind of in that time.
We have to know, like, how did you end up here now being a medium, doing spiritual work, doing all this inner work and plant medicine?
Yeah. So I've been a medium since I was a little kid.
Wow.
And I didn't have a lot of guidance or support around it. When I actually got to New York, through some very serendipitous moments, I met a mentor who's still one of my good and best friends. And he kind of took me under his wing for a bit and really kind of helped me hone that and helped me grow. Um, but it was never something that I believed I could do for other people. I was like, oh no, that person does readings. That person, contacts, lost loved ones.
Yeah.
It's not me. I'm supposed to be responsible
Yeah.
and work,
Yeah.
uh, and I just denied it for a long time. It would still be going on. It was part of my life, but it was just, I didn't have the confidence in myself that I could actually make a living doing something that was very authentic to me.
Mm.
Uh,
I feel like
and
that resonates with a lot of people, even if it's not in mediumship. Like,
mhm,
what a
yeah,
powerful statement. I am not enough, right? I'm not confident enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough followers. I don't have whatever it is. I am not enough to do the thing that I think is authentically me because I think I'm supposed to do something different.
yeah,
Powerful.
absolutely, yeah, and yeah. So I worked I worked a lot of off the books jobs at the time because I was an immigrant and I didn't quite have all the clearance. But then as soon as I could start working legally, I ended up in video games. First in working in a warehouse and distribution, then in sales, and then ultimately I was just very on top of digital trends. So I got kind of known for that. And I had a 14-year career there, then another 5 years at a consultancy working in digital strategy. Um, and yeah, it just kept steamrolling.
Yeah.
And but I would wake up every day and just I did not enjoy looking back. I didn't enjoy it at all. And I felt like just a big part of me was really, really missing.
Yeah. Did you start
But
to search for something, or did you hit like a rock bottom? What was that experience? Because I experienced the same thing when I was a teacher, and I talk about it all the time. It was like good is the enemy of great. Like it's fine, but who put me in this movie? I like felt like I was an actress
yeah,
in a movie that for a role I didn't apply for or audition for.
yeah. I hit a lot of rock bottoms because I was still trying to do music professionally. I was on tour sometimes. I was releasing albums, and yeah, I had some traction, but nothing that was like, this is taking over now.
Yeah.
Um, what ended up happening was when the pandemic hit, right before that, I got laid off, and I had at the time, well, I still have them, but they were at the time my twins were 3 years old.
Yeah.
Now they'll be 7 in a couple months, and I ended up just hanging out with them at home, and I just felt so good. Like, even though all this chaos was happening around and it was just tumultuous time, it felt so good just doing something, which I love being a father, just doing something that felt so innate and authentic to me.
Yeah.
Um, and I got approached about a business partnership in mental health. And I took that on. I learned a lot. I ultimately didn't do too well with the partnership. I'll kind of leave it at that.
Yeah.
But,
It's okay.
um, but during that time, kind of when I was like, okay, this isn't right. I'm not, you know, I'm not really doing what is me. I was doing my daily walk to the gym. My gym's about a mile away. I just walk it. It's a lot of hills, get my pre cardio in.
Yeah.
And I was kind of in my head, and I was saying, okay, well, I don't know what else to do. I kind of give up. I surrender. And the word mushrooms popped in my head. It was just this big neon mushrooms, and I'm like, what? And it was just a connection that is so strong that I hadn't experienced in a while.
Mm.
Mushrooms. I was like, what do I need to take mushrooms? It was like, no, for other people. Oh, okay, thanks. So I just took a walk. I worked out, and on my way back, I just kept seeing mushrooms. There was this house across from the gym I see every day. All of a sudden, had 4 mushroom like figurines set up. Saw a mushroom bumper sticker, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But then I was walking down the street, and across the street from me was this person I've never seen before, looking straight at me, nodding their head, and wearing a sweatshirt that had a big bright neon mushroom on it. And I was like, okay, there's something going on here. Now, through my studies, I actually studied herbalism,
Oh, wow.
and studied plant medicine, and I had a big knowledge of kind of how all this worked,
Yeah.
on a spiritual level. So I decided to go back, and I kind of like caught up with like where all the research is now, and I decided to go and get certified in kind of how clinicians and therapists are using it now. And I was just like, I'm just going to trust this and push myself through it, and in it. And so I had a great foundation. And
Yeah.
when I left the business partnership, I had like a couple of clients, but nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, okay, what now? I need to build this from scratch, but I have to do this in a way that is me. And I just floundered for a while. Like, what does that mean? And then I found DBE and you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild. So
Yeah.
crazy. So we were initially connected, I think, through John,
Yeah.
right?
John Roman. Yeah.
Yep. Shout out to
Don't know him
John.
personally, but he was a former online coach
Yeah.
of mine.
Yeah, amazing. So shout out to John and Amanda Bucci. We love them. So we get connected through them. You get
Mhm.
introduced to DBE. And when you joined Empower, was that like a hell yes for you, or did that take some time? Were you specifically looking for someone like myself that was going to help you build the business, or how did that kind of happen?
At first, it wasn't a hell yes. Well, I'll put it this way. It felt like a hell yes. There was all this intuitive stuff saying this is the path to go
Yep.
on. This is the right step. But I'm very much like, okay, well, let's check this out first. So I kind of absorbed all the content. I saw your face way too much probably that month, on Instagram. But I tracked down, kind of everything you've done. So I get the whole story. I listened to the podcast. I, kind of kept up on Instagram, went back to the stuff you'd already done, and just kind of caught up. And I was like, okay, this feels really good. I think, it seemed like you were really speaking the language that I understood.
Yeah.
And what I really liked is that you weren't all just business, 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 business. You also were like, hey, let's actually figure out what makes you you and apply that to your business.
Yeah.
And that is what I needed.
Yeah.
So once that all kind of came together for me, it was hell yes. And as soon as it opened, I signed up.
Yeah, incredible. And then you come in and you have this really cool niche that, again, like I said, where I started the podcast, it could ruffle feathers. So I want to talk about that for a second. You're not the first person that we've worked with who has done something in a niche like plant medicine or other medicines. We've had people in the marijuana space. Like we've had people in lots of different spaces. And even I think a lot of times for some people, things like the spirituality, human design, breath work, like that can even be triggering for certain people if they don't understand that. Maybe their religious background is kind of like a no to that. For you, was it just so clear that this was the path you had to take, you kind of didn't care? Or did you have any sort of limiting beliefs, or still maybe today, that come up around the fact is you might not ever be able to run ads if you wanted to, or there are going to be people that are really against what you do? Has that ever been something for you that you had to work through?
Oh yeah. I had a lot of limiting beliefs right off the bat.
Yeah.
I was worried about how do I talk about this in a very open way. I am pretty conversational and open, and I was like, I was kept thinking about how do I spin this in a way, and so it's like hinting at it, but that's not me. I'm very direct. I was worried about ads. I was thinking about like even things like SEO,
Mm-hmm.
and just
Yeah.
like all the kind of like technical things because Google will rank articles about microdosing, but they won't really rank websites very well that
Mm.
microdosing in it. So I was like, so all of these tools and tricks that I had accumulated over years of digital strategy, I was like, how do I put that to use? And so what do I call myself? What do I do?
I gotta just
And
hold on. I gotta stop you there for 1 second though, because I feel like the digital gods and goddesses, the universe literally put this wall up in front of you and was
Mhm.
like, you're going to have to deal with even more challenges, more roadblocks, and more humps and hurdles to get over than any other business owner, which is already tough for people. And I feel that 99% of people would have just been like, you know what? That wall's too tall for me to climb. I'm done. I'm out. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to quit. And you didn't. So I have to stop you just to like edify you to everybody and just say how
Thank you.
incredible it is that you were like, I'm going to take this Goliath on. Like, let's go.
Thank you so much. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. I'll throw it back to you a bit because a big part of that was whenever I showed up to the calls and stuff, there was never that vibe of, well, maybe you need to look at something else, or that was all me.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized, because you and the rest of your team were really okay, well, let's figure this out, you know?
Yeah.
So that kept me in that kind of authentic space, that very heart-centered space. And at that time too, I actually wasn't very open about being a medium, because I felt like I was had to compartmentalize it too, even though when I work with plant medicine, 90% of how I guide people and
Right.
facilitation is as a medium. So I, so I was just still kind of putting pieces of myself together,
Mm.
like what kind of Voltron is Pheroze going to be in authentic form?
Yeah,
So don't know if anyone understands that reference, but we'll see.
I
Yeah.
got it. I'm with you.
Okay. Um,
Big Transformers fans over at my brother's house.
awesome. um, so it was really, I found Empower to be really this journey of self-discovery.
Mm.
And that to me was so valuable. It was not only the business um, aspects, like just even the fundamentals of even setting up a business, and then challenging and pushing yourself, and the support along the way, and the people. It was also just this sense of, no, you're on this journey of discovering yourself and really figuring out what makes you tick, and also recognizing the fact that you need to do this because this is coming from a heart-centered space. This is coming from the real you,
Yeah.
and other people are going to benefit from that.
Oh,
You know,
so good. I'm taking that as a really high compliment, because to hear that someone who helps people with self-discovery found Empower to be so transformational in his own self-discovery, I'm going to take that as a compliment and a feather in my cap, because we really do work very hard at taking a holistic approach to business, because it's not just the Instagram and the analytics and the email list and the business foundation. It's so much deeper. And we say it all the time, your business is a reflection of you. And that's the work, is we get to do that work. And with people like you and guides like you, we can collapse the time that work might take, or we can have outside perspective and support on the work. But yeah, it's not always fun. It's not always fun or easy, right?
yeah. No, absolutely not. And I remember you also saying, well, let's think about this. And you started you were like DMing me, there's companies out there that are kind of in a similar space that I might
Yeah.
want to look at, and just, can't even think of some of those companies now I'm kind of affiliated with. So, I mean, it's
Amazing.
been a big growth. And it's been, yeah. Um,
Wild.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I
Tell
really
us.
felt like I had to kind of isolate and go alone. But I think you showed me that no, you don't. There are
Yeah.
people out there, and there are your people out there, and there's
Yeah.
community. Yeah.
And I will say humbly for anyone listening, but like, one of the benefits to working with a mentor who has been in the space for, I've been in 12 years. I mean, that's a long time. I've seen a lot and I've worked with a lot of people. And I think that there's a lot of benefit there when it is something like that, where I say, oh, I can connect you with this company or this person, or, oh, no, I've seen this before. We've had clients do this. And here you are feeling kind of alone, that you're, on this island by yourself. That's kind of a scary island to be on. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Someone in class 17 did the same thing. Let me connect you to someone that. So humbly, I say that, but I think that is a huge benefit to working with someone who's been around for a while, and has had that experience. So tell us where the business is at today. What do you got going on?
Um, yeah, it's been still a journey, and it's been pretty amazing. I I made the medium part became louder and louder, until it was just like, okay, you have to be doing this as well, marrying the two together. Um, and so I launched, when was that, 2023 now. So I launched in May 2023. I launched my first group coaching course. It went great. I had signups. And I had another one later on in the year, and I was still kind of building my confidence, honestly,
Yeah.
with being out there in the world, as this. So, and I looked at it as that. I was not in a rush. Um, and the first, the, but it was still like kind of like I have a great month and I'd have a not so great month.
Mm-hmm.
Once in September, once I was just like, okay, I'm committing to being myself, to putting, to presenting myself as a medium now, and being comfortable with that and what people may think of that. Because that was part of it, was also protection in the corporate world, where
Sure.
if you talk about that, just yay guy.
All of a sudden
Yeah,
there's a box on your desk the next
yeah,
day.
you're on that layoff list. It's like, so once I made commitment to that, October, November, December counted for probably about 65% of my revenue last year.
Incredible.
And and that's continued this year.
Yeah,
And
incredible.
I didn't do anything different but commit to myself as that and show up as that and be completely transparent about it.
Yeah,
So to me, and then when I reflect on Empower, that was really to me the ultimate purpose of that journey,
yeah,
was saying, okay, you have to be yourself, you have to commit to yourself, and you have to show up as yourself. That is where the power is. That is where people come and seek you out,
yeah,
attract the people that way, and that is where the abundance flows from.
yeah. And
That
we
was my
deflect,
lesson.
yeah, and we deflect the people that aren't the right people. And that's the part that so many people are scared of, because we want to help everybody, and we want everybody on the internet to like us, and we don't want followers to unfollow us. And it's like, no, but the more you can lean into your secret sauce, the more you can figure out what it is that you're an expert in and what really makes you you. And for
Mhm.
you, that's marrying the mediumship and the plant medicine guide with all the other skills. I mean, you're so talented. That's what's really going to attract the right people, and the
Yeah.
wrong people fall away, and that's okay. And I'm looking at your Instagram page right now, and you have 558 followers, which is not large relative
Not at
to,
all.
right, what people think they need before they can start. Yet you have consistent money coming in every single month. You have clients
Mhm.
reaching out to you. You're doing the work yourself, and you're building this business. And I love what you said before too, about it not being a race. Forward is a pace. And we're all just so stuck in, like, it has to happen tomorrow, it has to happen yesterday. And it's like, hold on. Forward is a pace, and you'll get there maybe one day, or maybe you won't, and you'll figure it out along the journey. But that's not the point, right? The
Yeah,
destination is the doing.
exactly. And it's and I love doing it. And
Yeah.
that's what, such a difference between my life before and my life now.
Yeah.
And it's just that I wake up and I'm like, I love doing what I do.
That's awesome.
Um, and to kind of talk about Instagram for just a second, the other thing I realized too is I'll get consultations in. When people come to my website and they, book a time for me for consultation. And they will talk about my Instagram, but they've never liked anything that I've put up. They don't
Yes.
follow me.
Yes.
They commented, and I've never heard of them before.
Yes.
And then here we are. It's like, okay, and they're talking
Isn't
about
that
it like
crazy?
they've not just gone through and checked out everything the day before, but they've been checking
Yeah.
out, man.
We all have those people. We all
So,
have those
so I'm
people.
like,
And
it's people are watching.
yeah,
Yeah,
people are watching. And
yeah.
sometimes
And I
we
have to
even
remember too,
are.
for a lot of what I do. Oh,
No, go
yeah.
ahead.
And but I was saying I have to remember too, for a lot of what I was saying. Oh, I'm working with a microdosing guide.
Right.
Stuff like that. They might not want other people to know.
Totally.
Uh, and so I have to kind of, that's where I kind of have to balance the groups into one-on-ones, because it's like there's quite a large contingent
Yeah.
of that.
It's such
So
a valid
yeah,
point, though. There are people who don't even want to be seen following an account like yours because they don't want to be judged, or they don't want to be fired. Or so, my gosh, like, what a beautiful realization for you to see. Like, hey, just because they're not engaging doesn't mean they're not aware or interested. So
yeah,
I love that you've recognized that. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you and work with you and see what you have coming up?
awesome. So my Instagram is at Pheroze Karai, and I'm pretty active on there. My goal on there is to be of value,
Yeah.
and to really put up content that is informational, but also lets kind of who you would be working with if you're want to work with me. And my website, Pheroze.com, is just full of information, and full
Yeah.
of information about what I do, services, and just general resource for plant medicine in general. Um, if you go there, I'd encourage you to sign up for my mailing list.
Yeah.
I send emails out often, and again, that's usually stuff that I don't put out on social media that is really, really goes in depth.
Yeah.
And I have, really good, open rates and click rates
Yeah.
on those. So
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. We'll make sure to drop that in the show notes. It's Pherozeekarai.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And my website is just my first name,
Yeah,
Pheroze.com, Pheroze.com. And Instagram's first and last name.
I love it. In one word or one sentence, what would you say to somebody on the fence about Empower?
Jump in.
I love it. I love it so much. Pheroze, you're the best. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for everything that you do, how you show up authentically. Thank you for trusting us and leaning into the process, because I know the work that you're doing is helping so many more people out there. And that's ultimately what we want. It's the ripple effect. So I'm just I'm so grateful for you.
Yeah. Jess, thank you. I'm so grateful for you and what you've created. I honestly can say I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing, and the way I'm doing it if it wasn't for you. So
That's awesome.
thank you.
Sending you love to California. Thank you so much, fam. As always, cheers to your evolution. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.